Welcome to my cake kitchen. If you see us for the first time, hello there. I'm Gladys. I love cake, and over here I make simple, informative tutorials to help you navigate baking and decorating easily. We're back. I did say we were going to be here today, right? I did. So because I told you, I was inclined to honor it. But if you didn't know, the UK is hot today. Hey, hello. It's hot. Very hot. I have a camera lit here. Right. It is so hot. Can I tell you the highest temperatures? 24 degrees C. Okay, 24. At least in the region I am in, it's 24. And we're all hot. I had to go to the pool today. Going to the pool keeps me calm and zen. But I also realized that I have this cake to make, and I made a promise I had to keep. So if you see my face looking oily and I look like I'm about to melt, say a prayer for me, because I am hot and bothered. Very. In a weather like this, it's not great to even turn the oven on because it's just going to make the place too warm. Plus, I have a portable AC, but if I turned an AC on, you wouldn't hear me. Okay? You wouldn't. So we're in this together. Let's make it work. But if you're just seeing me for the first time, hello, welcome. Great to have you back. We're doing quite a few things. So if you see me, we're going to be making vanilla cake, a sponge. We're going to be making my favorite buttercream at the moment, and we're going to be adding ganache. So it's going to be a 3-in-1 tutorial if you're catching us for the very first time. So if you're on the lookout for vanilla cake, buttercream, and ganache as a beginner or even an advanced intermediate baker, stick with us because we're doing it all. Hopefully through it, we'll be able to make the cake, bake it, you'll see the result. If you don't see it, it's the same cake I make all the time on the channel. Same recipe, that's all. So we're probably going to tinker off and have conversations. And if you did catch the community posts, the feedback for the cake came back. And the feedback wasn't an email, so it's public. You can go see it on Google reviews. It's amazing. And if you don't know what cake we're talking about, it's our last, or is it the last immediate live we had, a bee-themed 70th birthday cake that was made for a customer's mom. And they were so impressed. I woke up to the email notification that I had received a Google review, and my knees buckled. My knees did. You know, I've done this for a long time, but I don't have a stick up my backside. And I don't sit believing that every cake I make is going to hit the spot. I think there is always a level of uncertainty and an air of humility that says the customer holds the fault for what their experience is. And so when they are very gracious enough to send such warm and kind thoughts about their experience, I am always so grateful. So I posted some of that on the community post, and I did promise in my last video live that I was going to post the inspiration. I know it's taking a little longer to come, but I did post it. So whilst you're here, you can check all that up. And I'm going to also make time and catch you in the chat when I can. Right now, we're going to try and get through this because you know me, I can chat, and we will forget why we are here, okay? But it's hot. And I need to get these done because this cake unusually is going out on a Monday. I normally don't do weekday collections and weekday cakes, but there's this one for a Monday. It's a bank holiday over here. So, yeah, we're going to get to it. First of all, let's start by preheating the oven. Who is in the chat with us? Who is here with us? There is Faso. There's Tabitha, there's Faso, there's all the gang up here in the streets. Hello everybody, hi and all. Great to have you all back. I'm sure whilst I'm just trying to get through this, you guys will be keeping up with each other. Let's hope that there is room for me to kind of give you some tips on how to manage on a hot weather day like this. Because to be honest, the sun is not a baker's best friend. You know, we all, especially in the UK, we all want the sunshine, we want the nice weather, we want to wear our Daisy Dukes shorts, we want to show legs, skin, clavicle, hips, thighs and all. If you're a baker, that sentiment becomes short-lived when you realize that the buttercream is melting to the left and the kitchen is hot. And if you are at a particular age where your hormones are not like in sync and working with you, you're hot and bothered in places that nobody would ever tell you, people. Okay, let me just leave this alone and let's get to baking, because I want a physical look. Let's bake, okay? Because the oven is preheated. If I leave it any longer, it's going to be too warm in the kitchen. So over here, as usual, we have margarine, baking fat and vanilla. There's eggs. I'll put the quantities in the description box, or I'll update them in the community post for you to see, or check in any of my previous videos where I'm making a vanilla sponge and it is there for you. The difference though is that I'm baking them in 2 6-inch pans for you. We have it's supposed to be buttermilk, but we're using kefir, and then we have self-raising flour with some salt in it. So I'm going to move that to the side, and we are going to start with our vanilla cake. And I am employing a stand mixer over here. For the yield and quantity, you can use a hand mixer. Let me get my there you have it. We're going to be following the simple creamy method that I almost always employ. Into the stand mixer goes the sugar. The creamy method is really important in terms of timing and technique. You think if you want to cream this really like quick, you will raise the speed. If you did that, you're going to incorporate too much air bubbles, and the air bubbles will not be set. So it will cause some pockets in the grain and crumb of your cake eventually. So on this mixer, I go for 3.5 to 4, which is medium high speed for this mixer. Of course, if you're using a hand mixer, controlling and changing the speed is going to be slightly difficult, but don't just tune your hand mixer to the highest speed. At the start, it's going to be difficult to break up a little bit of the fat and sugar. So maybe at the beginning you want to raise it, but try and bring it to a manageable speed that can work with you. Also, timing is important at this point. I've told you before, timing is really key, and weather conditions do impact the results for you. Today, with the weather being so warm and everywhere being so warm, room temperature works, right? But if you left your margarine or baking fat out in the morning, by this time, when the weather has risen so much, you'd end up melting the butter or baking fat, which means that the structure is broken and it won't hold properly. It won't create the air pockets you need, which will eventually affect the crumb quality that you are aiming for. So all those small things matter. So a quick tip here: on a warm weather day, when you're trying to cream your sugar and butter, perhaps ensure that you can keep your baking fat in the fridge so it cools. Don't freeze it, just keep it cool and bring it out. Observe if it's still like, maybe if you bring it out for an hour before you need it, keep an eye on it. But at that point, if you keep it in the fridge and then bring it out and it's holding its structure, by the time you come to creaming it, because remember, when you're also creaming, there is heat that is produced, so it will help break things up a little bit. So you're not going to employ the same caution that you will employ when the weather is cooler. That's a tip for you to remember. But whilst our baking fat and sugar is in, we're going to do some vanilla, and we're going to pour it with a lot of love. That aside, we're going to cream this. Normally I go for 4 to 6 minutes. I even go as far as 8 to 10 minutes sometimes, depending on what weather condition. Today I'm going to start cautiously with 4 because the weather is on my side. So if this changes consistency quicker than I expect it to be, I'm going to stop there. So at this point, visual cues and observation is more important than actually sticking to the right time, because of the way weather is affecting my results over here. So let's go. Right. So whilst that is creaming, in the chat, first is saying, I remember last year it was 29 degrees and I had a cake. You had a cake saga. We want to hear it. She says, I experienced so much issues with my buttercream cakes, with condensation to sweating cake. I learned so much from the honey. We'll talk about that in a moment. Let's get this baking so that I am not hot and bothered here. We're going to do this for about 4 minutes. And we are creaming for 3.5 to 4. So in the chat, we have 1832. So let's give it till 1836, right? So whilst we're talking about it, look, I told you, normally at this stage, remember the baking fat is a mixture of high ratio fat mixed with some liquid, as in water. That's the composition. You have about up to 85% fat, and then there's 20% or even 15% water in there. It's formulated to mimic butter, but butter is performs slightly differently because it's natural. So at this point, we've barely gone for a minute, and it's already sloppy and it's melted. See? So it's really key that when you are baking in a warm weather, just as altitude affects baking results, weather conditions, whether it's warmer, it's cooler, it does really affect results here. So let's get through this. So this might be an experiment for what it looks like when you are baking on a warm weather day at 24, anything between 24 to 26 degrees C. Mind you, 24 to 26 degrees C is only a few degrees over room temperature. So room temperature is really not that hot, but we are used to the cool in England. So I mean, when it gets warm, we are all like literally melting like shea butter out here. Let's get going. Steph is back. Steph Hello, hello and all. Hello, lovely. How are you? We are baking a cake and we are attempting to kind of get through this whilst the weather is warm here. So if you're just joining us, hello. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, what are you doing? Come on, let's get this done and let's get a move on. I wanted to cream this for 4 minutes. I think I've been talking for half that time. So let's see. Let me give it another 4 minutes and then we'll get to it. But here's your polite reminder that if you haven't already liked the video or thought of reminding everybody, let's just get to it because it is really important. That said, I have seen Carpenter is saying she's baking a sandwich bread. Faso was having cake fails on a 29-degree weather day last year. We'll be talking all about that in a minute. Let's just get to what we are doing here. Okay, so just about 4 minutes in, the consistency has definitely changed, except you will find that if you look, normally at this consistency, I'll be able to pick the mixture up and with force it goes down. Look at it. It's hard to come up because it's sliding everywhere, and look at what we have here. It's falling over. I mean, to be honest, at this stage, right, if you overcream it, and there is a thing such as overcreaming. If you overcream it, for a cake, there is room for you to still get yourself a good cake. For cupcakes, this is the part where the mess and trouble happens. Because for the consistency we're looking here, it means you have too much air pockets and the structure of your fat has melted. So for a cupcake, because cupcake is small and when the air rises, there's no much room for it to reset and cause your crumb to settle. It's kind of just falls over the lips of the cupcakes, and this is how you end up getting like cupcakes that are looking at you like, really sis, what have you done? Okay, so to encourage emulsification, emulsification is just a fancy word to say I'm adding the egg yolk so that it will hold better and help the batter to set better, if you like, because eggs contain I keep confusing this word. It's lecithin. It's either the CI or the TI first. I'll put it later on screen for you to see, or catch the details on the community post, and that is sort of the bind. So adding the egg yolks first will help bind things together better, especially when everything else is falling apart. So emulsification is a fancy word to say when things mix properly. Naturally, when two things don't mix by themselves, which is water and oil, you need something to kind of keep the mixture together. And in this case, eggs do that. That is the role of eggs, one of the roles eggs play in the making of butter. But especially when things are falling apart, it is even more so important that eggs hold this batter so it doesn't fall to shreds. Okay, now I'm adding the third egg yolk in there, and what I'm going to do now is mix the rest of the eggs. You've seen me do this, just mixing everything, and you're going to be adding this slowly. Slowly gives it room to mix in without overwhelming the butter that is mixing. That is the purpose, because today we are doing things a little more cautiously. I mean, you know me, I am a risk taker when it comes to baking, but today is not the day because it's hot, really hot. And I'm not the only one feeling it. If this butter will talk, they will say, girl, we are not with it today. But unfortunately, they don't talk. So we're gonna try and make this work, and then we'll see what the results are. The weather has never been a baker's friend, but you know what? A baker could choose a cold weather day any day. In Alaskan frosty weather with snow up to inches here, look, the only problem is if the roads are blocked and I can't get to my destination, we got a problem. okay? But otherwise, I would choose cold weather any day, okay? Hot weather, hell no. Eggs all gone in now, done. We're gonna give it an extra like minute to mix together, and then it will be time to add our flour and buttermilk. The baking disasters that can occur on a hot weather day. If I told you what I have, like, let's finish this and I'll tell you some of my baking disasters on a hot weather day. Not exactly the baking part. I think the baking part, if you get the basics, fine. But the decorating part is the hardest on a hot weather day, because when you're making a buttercream cake, you have the consistency and stability of the buttercream to worry about. You have how the buttercream affects the filling of the cake and the structure of the cake. Then you have the entire stability of the cake itself to worry about. Like, even when you're doing fondant cake, even when you swap to ganache. So you know what? This is not a baker's friend. Tabitha, you're right. You're right. You're right. The bread maker doesn't want to make bread. Yes, the rice. So you know what? Different problems for different people. As a cake maker, I would love the cold on any day, not the warm. But as a bread maker, you don't want cold all the time, because then your dough won't rise. So you see, different problems for different bakers and different things. So Tabitha, I get it now. Now, let's add the flour. The flour is going to be added slowly. I have turned the mixer on fold function. And more than half of this has gone in. And then we're going to be adding the kefir. That is just to enhance the moisture. And the rest of the flour goes in. Now you want to let this mix all together. This is the part that you have to be completely careful, because if you let this go too much, you will over mix your batter and it will develop gluten. But then again, when I tried it in the past, you were here, that is if you've been here, I tried this, and you know what, the kind of gluten development you get is not the way I perceived it, because I thought you're going to get a bread-like doughy cake, and actually it looks more like a biscuit. So I guess it's still doughy, but because of the amount of fat, you will never get to the bread-like consistency. It just looks like a dry, you know when you leave baguette outside and it looks dry and it's cracking. That is what overmixing your cake batter will yield you. But it doesn't start until the cake is completely cool and set at room temperature. That's when you will see the result. But immediately after baking the cake, when the oil is still like warm in the cake, you don't see it at all. So there's not a lot of time in my baking career that I have overmixed butter, but I just wanted to try the experiment and show you, and that was really fascinating. So perhaps I will link that video and you can go and check it out. Our butter is done though, so let's go and get it all, yeah, in. Can't find my words now. Baking in the warm weather will humble you. It will. Baking in the warm weather. Oh, the ice cream. Turns out it's only the ice cream man who is happy in this weather. Okay, 1 second. Let the water run so that we can get I tell you what, I was so bothered by how warm it was. I contemplated showing up without makeup because I'm like, I'm not going to do this adding oils to my face. Like, what for? But anyway, I got over myself. Whew. Even the consistency of the butter on a day like this feels different. Everything is runny and a lot more loose. Okay. Let's get that in quickly. These are 6-inch. This is going to be a serving of 20, so 20 to 24. Just get a little bit in here. What's in here? When distributing butter, especially when at the stage where you want your butter to yield you an even level cake, it's really important you get them right. And at this point, you can either consider weighing your quantity. I just eyeball it because I've done this a few too many times. So next, stamp this, and then it's going in the oven, 160 degrees C, for an hour to an hour 15 minutes. Now you're going to put some water at the base of the oven as always to help keep things cool and set in there for you. So I'm going to do all of that before we move on to making our buttercream. I have tipped the water all at the base, but I'm not going to worry about it. Let it go. There you are. Because even my face in the oven is not even like fun at all. 1 second. Sorry people, I was literally stood in front of the camera. Bear with me. Yes, on a hot day like this, I'm still, because it doesn't affect it. Just because it's hot doesn't mean that the bake is any warmer according to the temperature in the oven at all. So I'm still going to add like water, but I accidentally spilled the water, so I don't know if that's going to people. Okay. There goes my mixer. The mixer, literally, if I hadn't like clocked it with my foot, it would have just bushed. I'm worried the motor will break, and that would be intentional accidental damage. It's not so much about the insurance, it's just that like having your mixer break in the middle of all of this is not going to be a great experience. I would swap bowls, but the second bowl is on the other side. Can't do that. So let's go wash this whilst we're at it. I can see our friend Hep Zadab. Hep, hello darling, how are you? You can hear me. Let's just get this bowl tidy and then get back to work. Did I tell you I'm hot and bothered? Okay. Did I tell you I'm hot and bothered, darling? Okay. So, all done now. We need our K mix. Now, my people, what has been your worst baking disaster or cake decorating disaster on a warm weather day? I can tell you one of mine, where first of all, it was so hot I was confused. I was swapping the recipe called for well, same recipe, but for the plain flour. Now, if you've noticed, the plain flour that I use and the self-raising flour, it's in the same tub, like two different tubs that look identical, except one has a gray top. The gray top is the plain flour, and the white top is self-raising flour, and that's how I differentiate. Tell me why, in all the confusion and the heat I was feeling and I was running late, I accidentally swapped a top, the gray for the white, by changing them. So when I was making, these were cupcakes that were going out. They were incredibly last minute. I was so bothered. The kitchen wasn't as functional as it is now. So here's me, like literally, like I'm sweating down my legs in places that I'm like, why did I do this to myself, God? Why, oh why, right? And in all of that, in the confusion and the mixed kitchen and the tight space and the mess, I was going to cover the tops of the flour so I can move it away before another batch. I accidentally swapped them without realizing. Tell me why, after several batches, in fact, 3 batches of cupcakes later, the cupcakes will rise and fall over, and I will take them out and there's a mess looking at me. I'm like, what is happening? It's the same recipe. Can you imagine the faff in the kitchen with all the heat and the frustration? Only a 3rd batch and 70 cupcakes in the bin later, I looked at the tubs and I thought, is something wrong here? Difference is, if you put plain flour, mix it with water, you will see it lighten up and spread quickly. If you did that to, if you put a small bit of self-raising flour in water, it will lighten up and spread quickly. That's a tip to know that it has rising agent. And if you did that with plain flour, it won't spread very quickly. And if you touch it, plain flour will get really doughy faster. It took me doing that small trick to realize all this time I'd been using self-raising flour instead of plain flour. And the self-raising flour, combined with the conditions and the warmth and the creaming and everything else, caused so many air bubbles, which is why the cupcake rose and then it fell over. And I literally had the kind of cupcakes that were messy, the kind where everything goes up, falls over, and the cupcake tray is covered in a mess, and you can't even touch the cupcake to want to eat because the bottom is hollow. I will never forget that day. And that is exclusively a baking problem for the day. My decorating problems, oh, where do I start? I have a lot of stories, including a wedding cake that literally, because I had to work at night instead of the daytime. A good tip for you when you're working on a warm weather day decorating a cake: if you don't have AC, if you can't manage, if conditions just don't support working in the warmth, work the night before or early in the morning. So if you are anticipating warm weather conditions, here is a tip for you, okay? Plan your time with extra room for adjustment. So for instance, if it normally took you say 4 to 5 days to execute a wedding cake on a regular weather day, maybe double that time, and probably prep yourself and bake your cakes in advance, freeze them so that you can adjust your timing. Because for instance, if for a wedding cake, if you spent a whole day baking or decorating, and the problem more is about the decorating. If you spend a whole day decorating and it's supposed to be a buttercream cake, you can't execute a buttercream cake on a warm weather day like that. You couldn't. It will melt. You will have issues. So you will probably have to work in the evenings where it's cooler, because it does get warm, but it's going to get cooler in the evening. And we're not talking evening 6 p.m. We're talking evening 8 to 9 p.m. So you're going to pull a night shift, okay? when it's warm. And we're talking when the weather is going up to about 26 to 29 degrees. Because in the UK, it doesn't usually get any warmer than that. You get the occasionally high scorching temperatures where everything comes to a standstill. You are burning. But generally, we're talking anything over 22 degrees, please just try and work in the evenings. So for instance, if you're going to be pulling an all-nighter, you want to rest up in the day, the cake won't survive, so add more time. That's what happens. But a cake literally collapsed on me like a wedding cake. In the night I was working, but you know what, you still have the residual heat from the day, so you are in an enclosure where it's feeling so warm. And I'm literally just close your eyes because I don't want to paint the picture, but I've got to say I'm literally half naked. Okay, I have like bottoms on, but I'm wearing a top that is like spaghetti, like a vest for that matter. Tell me why I'm trying to move the cake across from my work table. And at the time it wasn't in the kitchen. I had a space set up specifically in the lounge, trying to move the cake from the work table. And it's a tight work table to work around. And I had this cake that had lemon curd. When I tell you that I love lemon curd for what it tastes like, but I ain't got nothing to do with lemon curd when the sun is bright and shining. I'll be like lemon curd to the left. Because tell me why. There was lemon curd in the filling, and I'm trying to move this cake. It's a 7-inch cake, 5 layers. I did everything right. Because if you're building a 5-layered cake in this weather, build 3, leave it to chill, come back, build the other 2, whatever. Did all of that. Except now I've put the 2 up. I am going to put it in the fridge. The space is tight. I knock myself over and the entire top of the 2 with the curd comes flying across the table. Oh my goodness. It's one of those moments where I feel like I could punch into the wall and be like, I did that exactly. The expression I just showed you, that was me with F-bombs flying left, right, and center. And in that moment, right, you want to sit down and cry. Okay? But I had no time to cry. So you know what I did? Like a mad person. Because you know what? The picture here is not what you're seeing right now. Whatever you're seeing right now, this is great. This is great. This is like we're outside. But over here, I'm not even filming. Because in that state, I can't film. Okay? I don't want to film. I don't care. So guess what? I couldn't cry. Look, the whole situation still brings back the emotion. Honestly. And if I ever told you cake making is so lonely, in the middle of the night, who are you going to call? It's 3 a.m. You and your cake. Hey, you and your cake. You were about to fight and fix it. Add salt to injury. I had run out of curd. This day. I am even hot talking about this, right? Whew. I literally, this is how I kind of got myself together. When I looked at the cake that has flown to the left and the mess strewing across the table, and the thought that crossed my mind, shoot, I have run out of lemon curd. What am I gonna do? I just sat down at the hem of the table and I put my hand to my chest and I went, Gladys, calm down. Gladys, calm down. Gladys, calm down, with tears running down my cheeks. And I kept going, Gladys, calm down, until I had enough strength to get myself up. I left everything over there and walked straight into the kitchen to make myself a cup of tea. I made myself a cup of tea and literally just went and sat there looking at the table in disbelief. Well, the truth is, I did manage to get it together. And that wedding cake still has a lot of stories surrounding it that now I'm looking and thinking, was this ill-fated to start with? Because I've told this story before. I think I made a vlog or something. I will link it for you. I'll link it. when the cake was supposed to be made, the day, not the making, when the cake was booked, it was a wedding cake order, and the couple were supposed to come in-house for tasting. At the time, I ran in-house tasting, and guess what? A septic, a manhole, is it a septic tank? What, the one that has fecal matter going through. When you say fecal matter, it sounds great, but what I'm telling you is literally shit was running in front of my door. Like the drain had popped because there was a blockage, and this is the communal one. I'm not talking the small one. This is where the main drain, where the entire block of houses have everything going through, and then there was a blockage in the mains somewhere, so the connection comes through my front door. Literally, when you open my door to the left, that is going to my garden, there is a drain cover right there. It started as water spilling over. It didn't look great. We spoke to the necessary people. A guy came out, pulled the metal cover, and then stared at the shit. Look, it's hot. It's hot. I'll just leave that alone. Okay? Stared it over, and guess what? After he stared it, something popped, and we had a gush of literally raw sewage, like poop. I think when I made the video, I posted some of the pictures of this happening. Jesus, like, and guess what? As that is happening, the couple are on their way, and I'm like, God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I managed to kind of distract them to not come through the front door, because our place is a cul-de-sac. It drives to a dead end. So if you pull up in the vicinity, it almost looks like you're driving around, but it goes nowhere. So instead of standing at my front door when they will go to the end of the buildings and then walk back to knock on the door, I literally made my way to the end of the building so I can lead them to the garage, which is situated elsewhere, and then they can come to the back. And that's how they came through the back. Lovely couple. But guess what? After all this drama of poop at my doorstep, cakes flying over and everything else, right? The cake goes out on the day, and then complaint happens. This is where I will tell you, people, if you're a cake maker, or if you're in the business of serving people, which is people facing customer service, good people, decent people, dealing with people who have humanity, who have the emotional intelligence and empathy to recognize the effort, is way better than people who are just paying you. Because believe me, I will give up anybody who is paying me even beyond my worth, but is giving me matching orders. I will refuse you quicker than I will take a cheaper cake. You know why? Because there are things that are going to work against you. I take my job seriously, but there are things I cannot control, like the weather, like the cake flying across the room. I cannot control that. I'll do my best. What I need is people who have humanity, where if you have to call a customer, and believe me, no cake maker enjoys having to call a customer with bad news. Never in the history have I known. In fact, what I know about cake makers, if you have to call a customer, your knees have buckled. Your heart is wretched. You are literally criticizing yourself before you make that call. But what you expect is when you put that call to a customer, what you want to be met with is the humanity of a customer who says, you know what, I know this is bad, but I know you can fix it. Give me time. Because most of the time when you're calling a customer, you're not even calling them to give them the worst news, which is that the cake ain't showing up. Maybe sometimes you have to call a customer because you want to tell them, oh, the cake is not going to be at the 9 o'clock collection. It will be at 11 o'clock. Perhaps the party is at 2 o'clock. There is always a way to meet a customer halfway. And I know cake makers are really like giving people, so kind and very sensitive individuals who will do anything for your best outcome. And all we deserve or desire is when things go wrong, which they do, a customer who sees the humanity and goes, you know what, I'm willing to work with you. And then maybe on top of that, they get a discount or something to kind of make it up to them. The worst kind of customer is the customer who thinks, I paid you and you better bow down. So that's my cake story. There's a lot where that came from, but we have buttercream and I'm hot already. Okay, so let's get to work. Tabitha's got to run. Tabitha, we'll see you next time, darling. Okay, thanks for being here with us. It's hot, but we'll see you soon. Take care, lovely. Buttercream on a hot day, what do? Well, make sure your butter hasn't melted. Good tip, when you chop your butter, even at room temperature, check it out to make sure it hasn't fallen. Look, this butter is way softer than I will need it normally. That's why I'm going to try and work quicker with this, but more so, I am also going to reduce the creaming time. We are using the warm water method. So we have the butter that is too soft over here. I have gone ahead and sifted some extra sugar, plus we've mixed the sugar, icing sugar and warm water. Today, we don't want the warm water to even be warm to touch. We want it cool, 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 and it is. So we're going to start with the buttercream now. Whew. Okay, so let's get this in. The butter is already soft, so you want to work quickly. Making buttercream on a warm weather day is not for the faint-hearted, okay? And I don't care what buttercream it is. It could be Italian buttercream, it could be Swiss, it could be simply American buttercream, because you are working with butter, okay? And it will melt, especially in this weather. The guideline will be to let it go for 5 minutes or something. I'm not going to bother with timing. I'm going to keep an eye on how the butter behaves, because at this point the butter has already softened beyond what I would normally recommend. Now, if you're a beginner and this is what you're experiencing, perhaps it will be best to put it back in the fridge to cool down a bit. But then if you cool it and it firms up too much, you might have problems. So let's consider this a whole experiment in making buttercream on a warm weather day and see what our results will be. We're going to cream this. We're going to start for about 2 minutes and then we'll see. Medium high. Whilst that is creaming, I have cold water with ice cubes in it. Whew. It feels so cold and nice. Love it. Faso is saying, frosting a cake with buttercream on a hot weather day has been a nightmare for me last year when we experienced the warm summer. Sis, you're welcome to the club, okay? It happens to the best of us. We're barely a minute in We're barely a minute in and the butter has already melted. Look. Here's what we have. Okay, let's let it go because it is tricky. It is tricky. And now I'm wondering, was it a smart thing to want to do the warm water method? But we'll see. So whilst we're at it, how is baking going? Are you still baking, or it's just like now and again? How often do you bake, and what has become the status of wanting to continue with content? Just curious to know. But besides all of that, look, yes, the weather is challenging, okay, it is. But it's still like Saturday. What is your Saturday like? It's 7:15 p.m. in the UK. Okay, what are you doing for your Saturday? Because when I finish this, I'm gonna sit somewhere and mind my business. Okay. Whilst that is creaming, we're going to add some vanilla. Making buttercream on a warm weather day. You have got to be God's strongest soldier, okay, to achieve the success you desire. What am I doing? Okay, Faso says, yes, I am still baking. I've recorded all my cake and I have about 20 videos. I'm planning to do a series on lessons learned from my cake. Well done. Well done. You know what? Keep it up. You may not be able to achieve everything at one go, but break it down in small chunks. You will get there. Okay? Good luck. So come tell us some of the lessons you've learned. Put it in a video. Guess what? Some beginners will actually find it useful. Because you know what? I have seen videos on TikTok lately of parents who thought, I'm going to try I'm going to bake my cake for my own child, and then it didn't go well. Okay? And I'll tell you in a moment what problems they experience. But let's back to our butter. The consistency is changing, but the butter is too soft. So you know what? I kind of feel like I can't even go on with this buttercream. Okay? Because I feel like okay, we're going to go ahead with it anyway. Let's see how, because the worst case scenario, if we add the sugar, because the sugar is cool to touch, if we add it and it goes all runny, you can go and chill it, bring it back, and we'll see. Okay, so let's add the sugar a bit at a time. Okay, sugar is going in. Okay. The sugar has gone in, but it's looking runny. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't. I am hoping it will come together. I am just taking some photos for when I post it, just to show you what it looks like when it gets running. At this point, it shouldn't look like this at all. But hopefully, because part of also continuing to cream it is also expanding the batter, so you don't feel like you've ended up with a lump of batter that you don't need as a mouthfeel. Okay? Okay, it seems to have come together and firmed up a little bit, but not enough. Like with this consistency, let me show you. With this consistency of buttercream, what can you do? Nothing. If you try, first of all, because the butter has melted, right? Because of what it looks like, you can't whip it for your best results. It's all runny over here, right? So you can't do anything at all. So you see, the same buttercream we make all the time, the only thing that has changed today is the weather. The only thing that has changed. So making buttercream on a warm weather day is not to be taken lightly. Now I will say that the method I used has contributed to this, because if you use the traditional method of making American buttercream, you probably won't have this, because even though the fat has melted, because remember, when the fat melts, you have a separation between the fat and the water that is in the batter, right? And then what we've done with this liquid method, hot water method, even though the hot water is cool, what we've done is, 1 second, bear with me. What we've done with the hot water method, even though the hot water has cooled to touch before we used it, is we are adding more liquid, which means it's going to separate more, because we don't have any bind in this. So perhaps the best thing to do is to leave this to chill. It could also be that I can add the cream now because the cream is cool, but I'm worried about the consistency of the batter, because we want to make sure that everything is creamed nicely before we can add the cream, because if we don't do that, the consistency of the batter will end up feeling like a lump of butter instead of something that is supposed to be smooth. So we can't do anything. So I'm gonna just leave it in the fridge to chill, and then we'll come back and then we'll cream it all together, and then I will add the cream, and then we'll see how the result is. Or actually, what I'll do is I'm not going to actually put it in the fridge, because if this turns out as an experiment, hey, that's something we've learned, that making this buttercream, the American buttercream using the warm water method, is probably not your best result on a warm weather day. So actually, I am not going to save it. I'm gonna let it cream, because we are going to find out in real time. Karabo is back. Friends, where have you been? Okay. Now we're going to need start adding the cream a little, because remember the cream is cool, so it's probably going to help keep things together. Okay. Yep. The cream has helped it come together a little bit because it's cool, but it's looking like cottage cheese. Okay, it's come together. It's come together. It has. It's firmed up. It's firmed up a bit more, but that's because the cream is cool and the cream has helped it hold better. So if we were looking for a simple answer about making buttercream on a warm weather day using the warm American buttercream, if we were looking for an answer to the question, is the American buttercream using the warm water method made on a warm day, what it looks like, I would say keep away from it, people. Keep away. It's still smooth though. Still smooth. Tastes great, but a hassle. Plus, the moment you introduce the cream, you know that whilst it has kind of brought it together, as in it has held the buttercream together, it is still going to be worse off in terms of stability. So this is not my favorite buttercream to make on a warm weather day. At least now we know. Now, for my kind of buttercream like this, I decided that it's going to be a 1-to-1 ratio. So I'm going to add some buttercream to the mix. As in, I'm going to add some sugar to the mix to kind of cancel out the overly buttery mouthfeel that this buttercream can yield. So that's 150 grams of icing sugar. So we have essentially 500 grams of sugar in total. 350 was mixed with the water, which is about 100 mils, and then the 150 has since been topped up. We used 500 grams of butter, and there's some salt in there. So whilst that is mixing, let's go back and have a taste. It's sweet, but not overly sweet. And even though the butter is sort of a little bit melted, it's not like you feel like you have a lump of butter in your mouth. So that is really a good thing. Karabo, hey friend, it's been a little while since we last saw you. How are you? And what have you been up to? I can see you're talking to Lollipop in the chat. I guess life has changed slightly for you with other commitments. So we wish you all the best. I will check in the chat and see what is happening there. Okay, let's have a look at the buttercream. It will be the same results if you were making Swiss meringue buttercream. I can tell you, Swiss meringue buttercream, especially with the warmth of the meringue, on a warm weather day, it will melt, it will be sloppy, it's crazy. Yeah, this isn't stable. So American buttercream, using the warm water method on a warm weather day, stay away from that stuff. Okay, stay away. But even any buttercream on a warm weather day, approach with caution. Okay. Tastes great. Unstable, because you can't feel like, you can feel a cake with this, but the consistency is close to a soft filling rather than buttercream that should firm up, right? So no, you can't feel a cake with this buttercream at this point in time. You want to leave it to chill completely before you can come and re-whip it and then use it to fill your cake with. You can definitely not cover a cake with this. If you were making a buttercream cake, stay away from this at all costs. Try this at your own peril, because this, look, smooth, no grit, tastes great, not stable. So if you're looking for buttercream on a warm weather day, this is definitely not the buttercream to go for. But at least you've seen how we got here. That's all. I'm gonna leave this in the fridge to set, and then I'll come back and whip it later for use. On a day like this, please don't keep your buttercream on a countertop. It will melt. The buttercream goes straight in the fridge, and you can always whip your buttercream back to room temperature if you need it. So that's the last tip for you over there. Now let's go and make some ganache whilst we're at it. For the ganache, as usual, we have 900 grams of white chocolate here. Again, ganache in warm weather conditions, ratios matter. I've covered the subject of ganache ratios on here, and I will link the video right for you to see. At this point, a 3-to-1 ratio, which is generally recommended for white chocolate, is fair, but I will be overly cautious because of the amount or the quality of cocoa butter that may be used. For the supermarket own brand, sometimes the quality of the cocoa butter isn't great. So perhaps at this point, advisably, proceed with caution. A ratio of maybe 4-to-1 would help. But when I covered the subject of ganache ratios, I discussed in detail what 4-to-1 will do. It will yield texture. It will be hard to work with. So what I do when this happens is, for a 3-to-1 ratio, we have 900 grams of white chocolate. I probably should add about 300 mils of cream. And normally, with consideration for corn syrup, right? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to reduce the amount of cream. Watch me do that. We'll see. So over here, I have the regular 50 ml of corn syrup. And the decision to reduce the cream has only just occurred to me. So let's have that. Okay. So we have, that's 100 mils over here. I'm going to go put the buttercream away and then I'll get some cream extra. People, just bear with me, please. I'm gonna just add only 100 mils here. So we have 900 grams of white chocolate. We have 100 mils of fresh double cream, and I'm gonna add another 100 mils here. A total of 200 mils of cream, and then 50 mils of corn syrup. That's all I've done. Now let's go and warm this up in the microwave and then come back and mix it up. Making ganache on a warm weather day requires some serious adjustment and thinking. Normally this ganache that I'm making would be 900 grams of white chocolate to 300 mils of cream, or maybe 270, and then we'll throw in about 30 mils of corn syrup. The corn syrup amount is slightly adjustable, but today I'm having to make a serious adjustment just to kind of watch out for the consistency, because when it sets at room temperature, when I come to whipping it and using it to cover the cake, I might just see what it looks like, and then you can, at any point in the ganache making process, even when it's done, you can add cream to adapt it or change the consistency if you need to. But if you happen to add too much at the start with the weather conditions, it might just collapse on you. Okay, it will not guarantee you the best result. So making ganache on a warm weather day, you almost have to think about your result and then make the adjustments accordingly. So I have made adjustments in terms of how I have weighed the additional cream. What I'm not looking for is the texture. I don't want the texture. However, I have to kind of look at the ganache itself and the yield so that I can make decisions accordingly during the decoration process. I am hoping though that I can be able to come and show you how I decorated these cakes with all these problematic elements on a warm weather day. So let's hope, fingers crossed, that you'll see me here tomorrow. Who knows? Okay, let's have a quick look at how our ganache is coming along first. Okay, The microwave was warming at medium high, as in medium. It's not full blast warm hot, like it's not the full power. Medium power, that's what I mean, sorry. So let's have a look at the consistency. It's coming together. It is firmer and thicker than I would normally make it, but this is what is needed today. So let's put it back in until all the lumps, because I also don't want to overheat the ganache, because if you overheat the ganache in there and you break the mixture, it's going to be grainy. It won't yield you the best result. So it's a combination of recognizing how the heat plays a part in your results and what you want your ganache to do for you. Okay? There's also the additional element of adding color. So that's also an important thing. Okay, for those of you who probably want to know the amount I'm adding in color, this cake is going to be a pink cake, a light pink. So I just want to change the yellow tones a little bit. And that's about 20 mils. We've started with 20 mils exactly of white coloring. Because I'm not wanting to change the consistency of ganache or the color completely white. I just want to adapt the yellow tone slightly so that it is lighter. There you go. Okay, no lumps in there. The ganache understandably looks firmer, and that's because we reduced the cream. It is firmer than I would normally want it. You don't probably see it because it stretches, it's silky, it's smooth. But come to think about it, we have 20 mils of coloring, and the coloring has glycerin in it mixed with some white substance, I forgot the name, but you have 20 mils of that. You have 50 mils of Albert. You have 20 mils of white coloring. You have 50 mils of corn syrup. That's 70 mils, and then we have 200 mils of cream, which is half and half, fresh and Elmerly. Altogether, that is 270. Now, if I had just raised the quantity of liquid, which is the cream and the cream alone, to 300, the additional ingredients, which is the corn syrup and the coloring, will be extra liquid, which means that the consistency will be affected. It will be looser. Whereas now that I decided that I wanted to reduce my cream, there is room for the additional ingredients, which will help keep the ganache consistency just about right. So remember that, like I've always said, there's really no hard and fast rule to some of these things. The ratios are recommended for guidance, just in case you need the information and consistency. The real true power lies in understanding your ingredients, how they interact with each other, and that is supported by your confidence because of your experience. Look, every cake maker have bad days. I've literally spent this life telling you about the things I cannot control. I cannot control the weather. I cannot control the outcome of my buttercream, but I can make adjustment based on my prior experience and knowledge of how my ingredients interact, so I can get best results. So I'll leave the information in the description box for if you need to make this adjustment. But this is not like a hard and fast rule that you have to do this. But for me, this ganache is meant to reduce the texture and not overly firm. I want it to perform as the regular ganache I have showed you how to make, but with slight adaptations to suit the result I am aiming for. So hope that helps. There you go. So there you have it. I like the consistency of it. So we've won some, we've lost some. Either way, if you're looking to make ganache on a warm weather day, consider making these adjustments. There you go. God, you know what? Something I didn't time when our cake went in the oven. I didn't. So I'm trusting you guys to tell me. Does anybody know? Does anybody know when our cake went in the oven? Have we been stood here for about an hour already since the cake went in the oven? Can you tell me? If you can, that would be great. Okay? But we made ganache, we made buttercream. Buttercream on a warm weather day. There you go. Now I'm feeling a little bit insecure. Like, let's go back in the chat, see what I missed. Oh, okay. Now let's catch up a little bit. For Tabitha and the rest, it was still morning. Lollipop was sat in her front room. She's doing good. Okay. Faso. Oh, Faso goes to the pool twice a week. Good for you. Good for you. Some of us have to be dragged up there kicking and screaming, and that's a function of the fact that we can't swim out here. Okay, the sister out here doesn't swim. Like me and my floats thing in the pool is a sight you don't want to see. Okay, but I think that is better than when I used to kind of go and just like look like a complete beginner over there. Okay, so follow my swimming journey. Nowhere. Okay? Nowhere. Oh Lord. Tabitha is not here, but Tabitha is wishing for our weather. Tabitha, shush, you don't want this weather. It's too hot. Same temperature feels different depending on where you are. I heard many people apologize to Brits after visiting and experiencing it. Ooh, it's hot. Oh dear. Faso had a caking disaster last year when it was 26 degrees. Have you recovered, honey? Have you? Because I want to hear it. Oh dear. Steph says, I never knew how the weather, humidity can affect cake and icing quality until I became part of this family. You know what? We don't know everything, but the things we know, we're glad that you're making discoveries along the way, Steph. We're so glad. There are so many things about cake making that if I didn't make cakes, I wouldn't know. So don't beat yourself up for it, but we are happy to help you on your cake discovery journey. Now, on that subject, if you're in the chat, what is something you didn't know about cakes until you began to make them? Okay, what is something you didn't know about cakes before you made cakes? I'll go first. Today is the day of cake stories, right? I'll go first. I tell you, part of the reason why I make the videos and I'm so long-winded and it's almost like I can't stop myself is simply from one experience of my very first fondant cake that I made. Now, all the tutorial, I will tell you the experience I didn't know before, and then I'll tell you how this influenced everything for me in the way I approach content. This was way back in circa 2015. Your sister had just discovered baking. She's all excited. But it started as a cupcake business. Like, the idea of becoming a business wasn't a thing. I made some cupcakes. Remember when I worked with the client and I moved on from that job? I was a carer for a long time and worked with this client, and the baking activity was actually just an activity for the fun of it. Life moved on. I got curious and I began to experiment. That's the short version of this story, but let's get to the point where there was something I didn't know. So I get to this point where I am excited about what I'm doing, so I began to make cupcakes. Okay, there were cupcakes strewn everywhere in my kitchen. I gave it to friends. Look, I could give the chicken some cupcakes, even though it's made with the chicken eggs. That was what I did. And as I began to make them, family friends of my friends will ask for me to make them cupcakes. So I charged just enough to cover my ingredients, but let's just say this was just on the side, exciting adventures over here. And so there were a group of people who were at a workplace, a certain workplace, and all of them, one will order some cupcakes and the other will ask for cupcakes. And so my business actually started as a cupcake business, right? And then boom, I woke up and a customer put in a fondant cake order. It was supposed to be a Ninja Turtle. Whoo! I fancied myself an adventure. So I went online, Google on YouTube. Found a ton of tutorials, as you would. Looked at all the tutorials. It taught you how to bake the cake. I had recipes. I had found the buttercream. But putting the cake together, it will tell you to fill the cake and stack it. Did all of that. What it didn't say clearly in the tutorials I watched, it never said that when you fill the cake, put it in the fridge, let it chill, come back and cover it, put it in the fridge. It said, stack it up. 1 second. I remember the creator video that told me, stack the cakes up, cover it in buttercream, and leave it to set. It didn't say, leave it to set. What do you mean? And in the video, it didn't say, leave it to set, and neither did it demonstrate in the editing. I mean, sometimes in the storytelling, you can say, leave it to set, and then the camera cuts to opening a fridge, which is telling you, leave it to set in the fridge without saying the words. But it just said, leave it to set, and then it cuts to her covering this cake in fondant. So, leave it to set I did. And I left my cake to set at room temperature for 24 hours. And I tell you, the reason why I left it for 24 hours was that every time I came back and I looked at the cake and it wasn't set, I thought it would set. Okay, I thought the thing will set, except I left it in the kitchen on an August warm weather day. The kitchen was in a flat. It was hot. It was one of the hottest places I lived. let's just say 24 hours later, when I came back from work and I checked on the cake that had been covered in fondant. First of all, covering the cake was a struggle, okay? And I touched the cake. I could feel some gunk falling from underneath the fondant. Like it was literally giving away. Like when you're watching a cartoon movie and like there's a spill and the spill is in slow motion in the cartoon animation. That was my life in this cake. It was literally falling away. What did I see? The cake was a mess. The buttercream had given way. It had gone slimy. Oh my God. This was about nearly 10 p.m. And the cake was due next day at 1 p.m. So not only is the cake gone, the buttercream is gone, the fondant work, all gone. I had to get help. Like I called my bestie that day. I cried like a baby and I wondered what I'd done wrong. So I went on Google. Literally, I didn't go back on YouTube. I went on Google. I'm like, what do you do when you cover a cake in buttercream? And then it gave me the instructions. You will have to leave it in the fridge. So guess what? When I called my friend and I cried overnight, I was so overwhelmed that I cried and cried. And then she told me, go and sleep. You'll wake up in the morning and do it. So you know what I did? I cleaned the entire kitchen whilst I got some assistants to go to shop for the ingredients. Came back, organized the ingredients and everything, set an alarm and went to sleep. Woke up at 4 a.m. to bake the cake again, get the buttercream, fill and cover the cake. It was delivered on time. And ever since that day, the simple thing I didn't know before I started making cakes was I knew fondant coverage was going to be hard. I didn't realize how hard it was going to be. What I didn't know then that I know now is that please, when you cover your cake, whatever it is, whether it's buttercream or ganache, please put it in the fridge. Please. To this day, I will never risk it. That's it. So, Seasons is asking, does anyone know what the chemical undertone tastes that's on store-bought cakes? I'm not sure if it's frosting, actual cake, or both. Okay, the simple answer, Steph, is the ingredients in store-bought cakes are nothing like the ingredients we use at home. Ever heard the myth of, ever heard the story of short-bought ice cream not having nothing to do with the original ingredients of ice cream? Because ice cream is supposed to be sugar, egg yolks, and some cream. If you think about ice cream, these are the core ingredients of ice cream. You whip it together into a custard-like consistency, cool it, and then put it in an ice cream churn to churn it. That's what ice cream should be. Now that I've told you, next time you pick up your favorite ice cream, look at the ingredients and see whether you will see eggs in there or you will see fresh cream. Because a good ice cream should just be these ingredients and flavoring, your flavoring of choice. That is the most like distant thing. Because when you're thinking eggs are fresh. You're thinking sugar is very straightforward. And if you're thinking cream, it's fresh, right? So these three things should add together to give you your best ice cream on the market. Believe me, next time you pick your favorite ice cream, just look at the ingredients and see whether you will see eggs and cream. You won't. What you will see though is palm oil. And you're like, what's palm oil doing in my ice cream? Because the whole point is that they have had to employ a different set of ingredients that are formulated differently to influence the shelf life and storage and for distribution and all of these things that have nothing to do with what the original recipe is supposed to be. And the same goes for your short-bought cakes. So the short-bought cakes, last time I tried it when my local BBC radio called me to come for an interview with them to talk cakes. one of the things we did was I had a homemade cake and a short board cake, both vanilla cakes, both filled with strawberry and nut, and then covered the same. And the job of the presenter was to eat both, because they were presented exactly the same. He had to cut and eat both, and he could tell the difference straight away. He could. And the simple thing is, when I picked the short board cake and I looked at the ingredients, that was the day I said, if anyone came to buy a cake for me and couldn't afford me, and so much came close to, oh, well, I'm going to Tesco, I can't tell you what I would do to them, but I would say good luck. Then you said what an expensive lesson it was about my experience. Oh, are you telling me? I have since had a few more expensive lessons. The difference is that you can have an expensive lesson with your confidence intact, okay? And you can have an expensive lesson that literally disappears with your confidence also. So you choose, okay? Today, if I have an expensive failure in the kitchen, it's like, yeah, do I get upset? Oh dear, I do. You have no idea the number of times I still cry over cakes. Not as much anymore, because you know what? I have learned to be choosy with what I pick and what I don't want. Like, I have learned to not do anything that will add to the natural process of overwhelm that cakes are. Making cakes can be an overwhelming process. It's a repetitive task of doing the same boring things diligently, okay? Imagine cleaning your kitchen, washing a whole set of bowls, okay, only to use them in the same breath. Imagine what annoying life that is. I mean, you would think if you did the washing up, it's done, you set them up and you move on. No, not baking. You've seen me do it over here. You bake the cake, you wash the entire set of bowls you use, you come back and you measure the same ingredient. You cannot be bored with the process. And that's baking in the nutshell. And so, if you're doing that, you have to learn to be patient with yourself, and you have to enjoy the process even against your will. Do I love baking? Yes, I do. Do I like doing it repetitively when I have a 4-tier cake to make? Hella no. Okay? I cannot lie. I don't like making a 4-tier cake because it's a repetitive task of doing same things, minute details 1,000 times in a small enclosure. So you know what? A bit of Harry and Meghan gossip on the internet helps me get through all of that. So I don't have so many issues anymore in terms of overwhelm. But you know me, sometimes I'm slouched out on the sofa and then the cake is last minute and I'm kind of running around trying to put it together. That can be a little bit exhausting. But at least I shrug it off, because then I know where my pitfalls are. And I think the state of my kitchen has also helped me, because now I know where everything is. So I don't have the mental load of worrying about where things are. Because when my kitchen used to be such a mess, as in things were when I mean a mess, it was very disorganized. And so making a cake used to be a very mentally taxing process for me, because I had to worry about how to organize everything and reset them. And at the end of the bake, it used to look like a bomb site. Believe me, it used to. But not anymore, because now I know where everything is sectioned. And so it's easy. So I could make a cake within, like, say, if it's a 2-hour decoration process, within the 2 hours when I'm done, my kitchen goes back to a functional working kitchen, and you will be none the wiser, which is actually better for me. So yes, when I started baking, yeah, expensive mistakes, lots of them. Not anymore. But still, it's a warm wet day. So with the buttercream we made earlier, if it ends up not firming up, I'll have to do it again. And that is one very expensive mistake. Faso says, I know the feeling. I mean, at least we can all relate to the washing up. okay? Baking and washing up. Like, you know what? Baking is character building. Baking is character building. If you don't know how to just do boring things quietly and yet be excited, leave baking alone, okay? Leave it. Just go do something else. There are so many things you can do. Baking, cleaning, and it's like being a mom to a child who doesn't talk back at you. Like, imagine having a newborn baby. They suckle, they poop, and then they cry at night. And there's no return policy for that. Lollipop, are you here? Hello? Okay? That's baking in the nutshell. You love the thing, but the thing will give you problems and you can't complain. So if you are in here, if you are into baking for the outward facing results, like people will see you, people will be excited about what you do, and for praise, go and be a prime minister. Because it seems like being a prime minister, you can lie to the people with a straight face with no consequences. Baking will humble you, okay? If you make shortcut, the cake will fall flat. If you don't do the washing up, you don't have the bowls to use. That's all. Carabo, you're laughing. My people. You know what? I'm a better person because I'm a baker. I am. I've told you. When you think about going to run a business, don't run a business because you want to make money. Run a business because you want to build your character. As in, if you are such an impatient person, people annoy you because human beings will annoy you. Okay? Human beings, we have a tendency to test each other beyond our own limits, and it boggles the mind a little bit. But running a business, even when you're failing at the finances and the success that is measurable in terms of the money and everything else that comes with it, okay, one thing running a business will teach you is what a person you are. It will give you an inner gauge. That is, if you're willing to look at it closely. It will teach you what person you are. And you know what? There's no hard and fast rule. You'll figure out that, look, I don't like dealing with people and their BS, so to shit with this, and you will learn quickly and you can move on. Or you will realize that dealing with people and trying to help them problem solve through thick or thin will brighten your spirit. It will grow your character. I'm a better person because I'm a baker. Because when the flour, like, I have photos on my in my draft that will probably not make it out because there's a lot of them. The day we were making 2 days ago, when was that? Was it 2 days? Yeah, 2 days ago when I came in, we were making the batter for the chocolate cake, the bake sale. Those of you who don't know, I was here 2 days ago on a live, and I made some cupcakes, and I also made the base of a chocolate cake. As soon as the live went off, I was tidying up here, and guess what? The whisk went flying, and imagine there was a splatter of chocolate goo everywhere over here. Meanwhile, I had ended the live just to go and do the washing up. If you watch that live, I was saying I was tight for time because my son needed picking up, and I didn't have the time to stop. The thing goes flying, there's a splatter everywhere, and it even falls on my foot with my apron messed up. A whole distraction from what I needed to do. So you know what? My white shirt had the mess on it. I had to go because my intention was to finish the live, do the washing up, shoot out, and go pick the boy. Look, I had to literally pull in the annoyance of just like, I pulled my shirt and I had forgotten I had makeup. The entire makeup rubbed on the shirt. I had picked myself the nearest thing, and then out I was. I wasn't even looking at the state I was in, only to realize I got to the school gate with my slippers on that had mess on the slippers. Welcome to Bake It. Lollipop said, I think if I ever did baking for money, it would be a small bakery item, not big cakes. You know what? There's no reason why. Give me the note.
I've got my key upstairs.
Okay.
Other side.
Okay. Okay.
I'm just going to get my key.
What are you going to get?
Oh, you can't read it? Hagendas.
No. Okay. All right. Does he know?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. That's
He
fine.
said,
Not a problem.
he said, do your own beeswax.
Okay. That's because he's busy playing games, isn't it? Okay. Right. Yeah. You know what? That is not to say the intention of baking for money. There is not. The implication here is that you can completely be successful at baking in terms of the money, but what I'm trying to point out here is that baking requires an introspection and a very disciplined effort to execute results every time.
Dad?
Yep.
Sorry, but both my shoes are in there. I'm going to have to walk.
Yes, it's fine. It's fine.
Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah. Baking is a very disciplined effort because it's a science. It's a science, like the baking itself. Like for you to get a great cake, you have to understand how the science works. There's a reason why scientists are very astute and very serious people, because their calling is a disciplined endeavor. Okay, I was listening to a podcast about a forensic scientist. Can you imagine when you hear a forensic pathologist? Like, it sounds very grand, but what that person does is very thankless and boring, but very serious, with implications and consequences that are ever so long lasting and affects life. Because what a part of what a pathologist is at a crime scene, they have to look at the environment and by observation pick up clues and stuff. Can you imagine the discipline you have to look at a carpet looking for something that shouldn't be there? That is baking. Okay, I'm not saying baking and pathology is the same thing. I'm just saying the boringness of the task. Like, imagine somebody on a carpet that passed away, and that small strip of carpet has become a crime scene, and someone's job is to look at that carpet in a way that brings up information that will lead to answering the question of how this person came to end up on a carpet. That's more like washing up every time. That's like making sure that when you measure your flour, the 250 grams is the same every time. Imagine doing that for a 5-tier cake. Lollipop says, after watching Bones, I wanted to do that. Well, you have to have some very serious attention to detail, okay? If you're a person who is like bored to death, because you can't switch off, because you have to look at the carpet and look at the fibers and think, this is, oh, my dear, please. Baking can be very fulfilling, but when you see some of us here, okay, it's not all shits and gigs. It's boring, it's thankless, it's annoying, and it's tedious. That's all. But yeah, you know what? Listen, darling. It's okay. Look at me. As I'm talking to you, I feel like I'm melting down over here. Believe me. I feel like because my face feels so warm. Look, I didn't time this cake. I'm just going to open it just to see. I didn't time it. It's nearly overbaked. But I caught it on time. Oh God. Okay. Baking a cake on a warm day will teach you a thing or two. Okay. So what does it look like when you bake a cake on a warm weather day? We're about to find out. Now, if we're really being honest, this is not the texture of cake that I almost aim for, right? And you can go back to my videos and have a look. This ain't it. This. Because I got caught up in just trying to solve my warm weather issues and didn't clock the time. So it seems like it's baked well. It's the fact that it's firm and it's not like soft means it's overbaked. That's a simple, because when a cake comes out, it should be able to hold. And the sign here is there's over browning. You can see it's crusted too much. This wasn't the cake I was aiming for. This wasn't it. But we're still gonna work with it nonetheless. Chances are I will have to kind of bake another batch, because this is not my best effort. I'm not having it. Lollipop, you say you guess you always overbake. Do you know what? There's a fine line between overbaking and the cake like burnt. This is overbaked. So is it good? Yes, it is. It will be fine. It's just a preference thing. I like the yield lighter. So who knows? I might change my mind about it. But ganache is done. Buttercream in the fridge. Cake overbaked. All on a warm weather day. Okay? It's 8:15. Karabo says, if I was the one baking, I was going to do another cake. Yep. So you see, some of us feel differently or strongly about cake. So there you go. People, it's too hot. I've got to clean up and I've got to bake another batch anyway. So I'll see you all on the next one.